just be. Don't take it. Take it, just don't be.
First,
don't be filming. All right, you guys, I am here with my makeup artist from Skin Decision and Life in General, Diana Lomelin.
hi everybody.
We've known each other for like, what, like 5 years now?
Yeah.
I think it's like 7 years.
Yeah, I want to say it's been a while.
Diana's like my makeup guru goddess. She's amazingly talented.
Thank you.
Diana's notorious because she tells me I'm not allowed to do stories on Instagram or anything without my makeup done anymore.
Okay, well, before this show aired, I said, you know, you're gonna have like a personality, you're gonna have to follow and just, you know, be glam. I'm all about the glam.
Too much pressure. I'm a surgeon. We are gonna recreate 2 of the looks from Skin Decision. Actually, we shot these 2 looks on the same day. One of them is kind of like the crimpy hair, and I've been getting questions like, what hair crimper did you use? And I'm like,
a ton of questions.
I don't know. We'll ask Diana what hair crimper she used. And then the second one is the Persian Beyonce look, which made me cry because it freaking hurts. This one is not. Don't trust this face.
See,
She's
the thing,
evil.
the thing is that they would say you guys have like 20 minutes to change a look, and that was including wardrobe, hair, makeup, and everything. So you don't have time to be gentle. You just gotta do what you need to do. She took it like a champ, and now it's like one of my favorite looks.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. Let's do it.
First, I'm gonna get started with her brows. I like to start with brows because brows frame your face. Also, when you do them at first, you know, you can really focus on them. They will stand out. But if you do them at the end, sometimes they tend to stand out a little too much. And I don't wanna take anything away from the eyes because to me, eyes are the most beautiful part of somebody's face. She doesn't have a problem with not having brow hairs. She
I did not
does.
pluck in the 90s.
I know.
I was a nerd in the library in the 90s.
I do want to fill in some areas. This is her good brow. This is her bad brow. Everybody has one of those.
I know.
On the inner part of the brow, I like to use a lighter shade of pencil. This is the Anastasia Brow Wiz. And on the outer part of the eyebrow, I like to use a darker pencil. But I'm just going to fill in on some of the areas that she's missing a few hairs.
I'm missing a few hairs. They fell out from surgery. All the stress.
Yeah.
This one they fell out because of my job. This one they fell out because of my kids.
You know,
I was always so bad with brows. I feel like whenever I did them, they look like check marks. And I think the trick is to like use a lighter pencil. Don't use a pencil that matches your color, especially if you're a beginner like me. How do you feel about microblading?
I'm not the biggest fan. You know, obviously I work with faces and I see them all the time. They only look good in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they start looking a little bit
Blend
red.
out. I've seen ones that look like really good when I'm like injecting people with Botox and stuff. Sometimes it just looks like they took a Sharpie.
5 hours later.
And this is just the beginning. I'm also gonna go in with powder after this.
You guys, I tried to raise my brow and be cute for you, but I can't raise my brows. I haven't raised my brows in 12 years. Okay, so what's next?
I'm gonna be using this Anastasia Brow Pro Palette. This one basically has all the colors that she carries from the line. The same thing that I did with the pencil, I'm gonna do it with the powder. You know, here we're gonna keep it light. On the outer area, we're gonna keep it a little bit more dark. And I'm going with a darker tone. But every part of the makeup that I do, every cream I use, I go with a powder on top. Because that's how you're gonna make your makeup last. That's how you're gonna make it look more flawless. It's like an airbrush look.
You guys, when I was doing the show, Diana and I were like in this kitchen at 4:30 in the morning, 3 days a week, in addition to my practice, surgeries, kids. I was so tired. Obviously worth it. It's kind of like throwing a huge party. You're like, why am I doing this to myself? And then when you see the final product, you're like, aw, it was so beautiful.
I'm gonna use the brow gel, and so that's kind of like the setting spray. And that's just gonna set the brows. So now I'm to set her brows, I'm using the Milk Makeup Brow Setting Gel. And on the outside, I'm using color Diesel.
This is important. The Born This Way Too Faced Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer is life. This is life. It is not only the best under eye concealer, and you also use it as like a general concealer.
So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carve out her brows. Not only is this a good
That
product,
sounds really painful.
no, this is a really important step. This is how you're gonna make sure that your brows look cleaner. If you forget to pluck your brows for whatever reason, then this is gonna help you.
Because you're in surgery 20 hours a day.
Yeah, no one's judging.
You are judging.
I'm constantly
She's a
judging.
goddamn liar. All makeup artists judge, okay? They're horrible people most of the time.
Basically what I'm going is I'm going right under her brow. And I'm going to clean up if I went over or if there's any hairs you want to cover. You can definitely do this over your hair to cover. Just remember, if you add foundation or concealer on top of your hairs, it can look cakey. There's like a ton of brow hairs. You want to at least pluck some.
I'm gonna fall asleep. This is so relaxing.
When I do this, I also want to bring in the concealer into the inner corner. I'm going to set this concealer that I'm putting on, and I'm gonna set it before I set the under eye. This area inside in the inner corner usually is darker than anywhere around, and just kind of like your under eye area, and so you wanna make sure that you bring some light to this.
That's your angular artery, people.
When you're doing this, make sure that you don't have a lot of excess concealer on your brush, because the last thing you want to do is place your brush and have a ton of product on it, and it's really hard to just blend it out and make it very seamless. We're also going to carve out the brow on the top, but we're going to do that later.
Okay, so Diana and I have worked together for many a moon, 6 or 7 years. We've both had our share of interesting people that we work with.
Yeah, most of them are great.
Most people great. But
Yeah.
we don't care about those people, so tell us all
It doesn't make that fun. It doesn't make our jobs fun when they're great. You know, it's just like, whatever, another day. Just kidding.
Okay, so tell me like the craziest thing somebody's like asked you to do or said to you.
You know, now that we're on the subject of brows, I had a client once. She was so rude. It was because of her brows. I think it was more like she just didn't like me, or I was doing the brows, and I've never been disrespected this way, but like I was doing her brows and she just took the pencil out of my hand. She's like, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, oh my God. That's probably been one of my worst experiences, but that's something that I'll never forget. And I remember that her agent called me to work with her again. And I said, you know, she was disrespectful, and I don't care how much money you offer me. I don't think she can be one of my clients. And that was the last time I ever heard from her.
I agree with that. Because we are both in the service industry, right? So I think a big misconception is like that they have blessed us by working with us. But I always tell people like, no, I'm interviewing you to see if I want to take you on, because I need to know that you're capable of happiness and receiving happiness right now. Because if you're not, nothing I do will make you happy, and you're just going to make my life miserable. So I think that's what people like, be nice people, or else people don't want to work with you. So what are you using on me now? The Hydro Grip Primer.
I'm not huge on primers. This is probably one of my favorite. This is probably the
What is a
only
primer supposed to do?
There's different primers are for different reasons. Some of them are to make your skin glowy. Another one is to make your makeup last. Another one would be to disguise pores. So there's different things. This one is to make your makeup last. Don't ever just rely on primers. It's also about technique, and that's super, super important.
The cream and then
Yes.
the powder.
If you're gonna take anything away from this video, it's that. Whatever you do with the cream, you're also gonna do with the powder. So now I'm going to start contouring her nose.
I get to look like a safari animal. Zebra, flash, giraffe.
Now I'm gonna contour her nose, and this is also gonna make it so her makeup lasts. Every step that I do is so the makeup lasts.
This part's like when you fall asleep at a frat party and someone draws on your face.
We know what she was doing in school. She has a little, like a little bump.
Broken nose.
So we're going to hide that. Dark colors is gonna bring back, and the lighter colors is gonna move forward, or it's just gonna make it look smaller. Now the reason I bring in this line so close to her eyebrow is because when I blend it out, when I blend this darker line out, it's going to make it so this is not such a strong and defined line when we carved at her brow. Now I'm going to blend this out, and this is when I blend in really, really good. This is also going to make her eyes look bigger and elongated.
Bella Hadid, here I come.
Now, like I said, everything I do with a cream, I do with a powder, so now I'm going to set. So right now the powder that I'm using is the Milk Makeup Powder in medium, and it is mixed with Ben Nye.
You guys, ding, ding, ding. Another one I use every single day. Ben Nye Banana. This one I use to set the Too Faced concealer. All of this I learned from Diana.
Now, something to keep in mind is that just because I'm using banana powder on Sheila doesn't mean that you should get the same one.
Fine then, Diana.
No, because
I'm trying to impart knowledge.
But I'm gonna give them a solution.
Oh.
So she has a darker skin tone. I could never use banana powder. So a color that I would use would be the Benai Fair powder. So this one is more for my skin tone, for lighter skin tones. They both do different things. For her under eyes, the yellow is gonna bring out, cancel out the
blue.
The blue and the purple that she has underneath. For me, this one would cancel out my tones because of my skin shade. So now we're gonna get started with her eyeshadow.
Tell everyone what eyeshadow you used on the show because everyone keeps asking about the eyeshadow situation. So
right now we're gonna do just more of a neutral look. Another thing that I do last is usually the shimmers, which is kind of what they were asking about. But this is a good palette. This is my favorite palette that I have. It looks so boring, but this is like such a needed and a must-have palette. Busy Art. You can get this one at Sephora.
oh my god, so useful! And it's broken. That's how much we use it.
Yeah, this is like super well loved.
This is our ghetto makeup tutorial.
Hey,
Everything's used, broken.
This is this is the color that I'm using first. I'm going to start putting in the middle of her eye. This is just to further enhance her crease.
To further enhance my natural beauty.
And I like to bring it out. This is just gonna make her eyes look bigger. I'm all about making her eyes big.
You know what sucks is taking the makeup off because it's so much work and it's art. See, this is why I like plastic surgery because I do it and I'm like, now go live it and enjoy forever. And then Diana spends like 20 hours on makeup and then I'm like, if I don't wash it off, I'll break out in the morning. And then I go through this like bargaining with God. Well, maybe it's worth the breakout. And then I'm like,
Have
no.
you ever left it on?
The eyes I've left on.
Oh yeah, you have left that.
But then you wake up with like little crusties. They're all up in there, the Q-tip.
Now I'm going on the outer corner. I'm going in with this darker brown and just slightly. I'm bringing it in and going a little bit towards the middle of her crease. And I did not grab a ton of product. Make sure that when you work with darker colors, you go in little by little. It's easier to add than to take away. Now I went back in with the brush that I used in the crease with no further color. It's just the same that I had before. It's just to blend out. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to eyeliner. Eyeliner that I'm using is by Inglot, is number 77.
Another thing I don't know how to use. I hate gel liner because then you like mess it up and you're like screwed.
This is also going to be just to enhance her eyes a little bit and to hide the lash band. Is the inner corner, instead of doing it with the gel, find a really good eyeliner pen and use for your inner corner because usually you can tend to tear up and that will go away super quick.
It's called the 𝐼𝐸. The I is spelled like I. They're very clever. 𝐼𝐸 liquid liner.
We're gonna move on to the face now. Okay, so this is the best foundation that's ever made in
What?
the entire world.
The best foundation ever made. Oh yeah, it is. NARS makes a good foundation, people. Good thing I did my nails.
A really good tip that I have for you guys that I always see, I cringe. When you're going to Sephora, wherever you're going to match your foundation, don't match your foundation to your jaw. Don't match your foundation to your inside of your wrist. Ever. And the reason why is because most of us should be putting sunscreen on. So your face is never gonna be the same color as the rest of your body. And neither is gonna be your wrist. Like your wrist doesn't really ever see the sun. So what's gonna be seeing the sun and what's gonna be the closest to your face is your chest. So match it to your chest so that way it's just gonna be one even color and you don't have a floating head. The reason why I like this foundation is because the coverage is really good. It's like medium, but you can build it. And the finish is so beautiful. It's not super glowy, it's not matte at all. So it looks very, very natural.
5 hours later.
When I say we're gonna be rubbing up her brows with the foundation. Don't do this with concealer. Make sure you don't have a ton of product because you don't want to accidentally push it onto the brow hairs.
Is my nose so weird?
What I use for her nose to contour, I'm going to be using this also to contour the rest of her face. Graftogen High Def Glamour's Cream Neutral Palette number 3. This is such a good brush as well. Highly recommend. By Sephora, and it's the contour brush. And it's a little slanted like this, and it's super, super dense. I'm contouring, I'm trying to bring out her cheekbones. I'm cutting up her jawline a little bit. So I want to make this area a little bit smaller. So I'm bringing in this line rather than just doing it here. I also want to bring it up here. Now she doesn't have a big forehead necessarily, so what I'm trying to do is cut this and then cut this. Going back to the nose, now I'm gonna be using a cream concealer. This is another great concealer. You can do spot concealing for this, like if you have a pimple, this is not gonna move and this is super, super high coverage. I also like to use this to contour her nose. The reason why is because if you let it sit there, it's not gonna move, it's not gonna go anywhere, and so you're gonna get a really good, nice contour. So I'm using, this is also by NARS.
Soft Matte Complete Concealer, Medium Dark 1 Biscuit.
But you wanna make sure that you...
See how she skipped that spot?
Yeah, because you don't
She
wanna
doesn't do
enhance
like
that.
a full-on line. She does a little skippy-doo.
You wanna make sure that you don't enhance what you don't want. And I stopped there because I'm gonna go up with the other concealer, with the Too Faced concealer. This is too thick for the forehead and it's just gonna make it cakey. Once I apply this, now I'm going to lightly blend out the nose contour. I'm starting to blend the outer part of the concealer. So now I'm going to start blending out her concealer. A really good trick when you use the blender for your under eye is make sure that the blender isn't super, super wet, because the wetter it is, you're gonna have a hard time to blend out and it's gonna pick up a ton of the product. I highlighted this area, but I didn't go all the way in just because I also wanna bring in this. I wanna emphasize this, so I'm just making this area smaller. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to blush. I'm using this liquid one. This is also by NARS, Horrid Liquid Blush. A tip about blush. Blush is usually the first thing that wears off in your makeup. Putting a liquid blush or cream, either one, ensures that your blush is gonna last you a lot longer. Okay, now I'm going to start setting everything. One of my favorite things to do is set the under eye. Now my trick is using...
You guys, this is painful for her to share this trick with you.
Yeah, we almost cut this part out.
Because this is the trick.
But
we're givers.
I use the Fenty Beauty Universal Blotting Powder. It's a blotting powder, but I like to use it under the eyes. Okay, before we set anything, you guys have to make sure that you blend out all the lines. Not that she really has any, she doesn't.
Because I'm embalmed.
I'm going all around. This is when it's really important that your blender isn't super, super wet, because then it's gonna be very patchy. And you're gonna press it in and bounce it. This powder is really good too if they have like these smile lines, and makeup tends to break up in this area. Now I'm gonna go back under the eyes and set even farther. This powder is just kind of to blur out, but it's not necessarily to set completely. I'm going to go back in with then I mix with milk powder. I just set it.
Tip, tip, tip. Ding, ding, ding. Tara, don't make noise. Tara! Don't make noise.
A lot of times I see people baking under the cheekbones. They go straight in from having just the wet foundation to just putting on the powder and putting a ton of powder. Usually what happens is that the foundation grabs onto the powder so much that it leaves a really harsh line. Like I said, you want everything to be really diffused. What you want to do instead first is with a powder puff, you tap in the powder really, really well until it's invisible and just carve it out.
This is Laura Mercier Translucent Medium Deep Loose Setting Powder.
This is another good thing. Remember how I said everything that I do with cream, I do it with powder as well. So this is how I set my contours. I set it with a darker powder. I go in with a beauty blender and everything that I did.
You know how I do this? Buccal fat pad removal.
Taller. I'll tell you what I wanted to be when I was a kid.
What?
I wanted to be a coroner. It's so random, but I really did.
Why?
I don't know. I always found just fascinating.
Ooh, my dad's a pathologist, so he did autopsies. So then growing up, we had jars of formaldehyde with worms he'd pulled out of people in the garage, and I would take them like an absolute nerd to school for show and tell. And people would bring their puppy, and I'd bring a jar with tapeworm. that ate its way out of someone's ankle, and my dad pulled out. It was not cool. That was my lunch was pita bread with lamb brains or something, sheep brains. And by the time it's lunch, it's all soggy, and the pita bread is falling apart, and everybody else has a Lunchables. And I'm what's wrong with sheep brains? I don't understand why people don't like me. That's what I should do for my kids. Keep them nerdy as long as possible. Keep them out of trouble. No friends for you. I'm your friend, okay? I'm the only friend you need. Now we're using
Oh,
𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿.
𝐸, sorry.
Which one are you using?
I just dipped.
Using all of them.
Yeah, I just dipped. Yeah, so all this, I never used that actually.
Oh.
I mean,
What
maybe
do I
if it's
know?
an eyeshadow. No, it's really pretty, but like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a highlighter.
Yeah. She used the cream blush, and now she's using a powder blush.
This is another 𝐸 palette.
Not pronounced 𝐬𝐿. I'm so cultured. Oh my god, you guys, this reminds me of a story. Okay, I used to work at 𝐵𝐿_MONACO in New York. This woman comes in, like super like New York, whatever. She was trying on this white shirt, and I was like, yeah, well, you know, it looks really pretty. You just need a different color bra. And she goes, yeah, I have really good lingerie. And I was like, excuse me, what?
Okay, so now I'm going to apply the shimmer on her lid. And I'm using Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. And I'm using these two shades. I like doing all of this just like at the end, just because it just starts making everything look so pretty. All right, we're moving on to lashes. Ardell's 113 doubles. Now to blend under her eyes, I'm using this Fenty Beauty bronzer. It's called
Mocha Mommy.
Okay, so for mascara, this is my favorite mascara, the L'Oreal.
Luminous / Paradise.
Yeah, this is the best. I'm not like, I love the expensive mascaras, but I go through so many of them. For lips, we're going to use Dose of Colors, Let's Cuddle.
Never more in my life have I wished I had veneers. Because one lip gloss is not enough.
I'm gonna use 4, but these are the first 3. It is Morphe Flower Crown. This is one. I use very, very little of this shade, and then I use a lot more of this one. This is Becca Glow Gloss Champagne Cream, Fenty Beauty, and Gloss Bomb. And then I just mixed all 3. And this is gonna help you further blend. And why stop at 3 when you can do 4? So this is gonna be just the very last one. This is just to kind of make her lips even plumper. This is just a clear gloss by ColourPop. And I like using a clear gloss because it kind of diffuses the lines of the lips.